Namaste and Hotep. My name is Jess.Herriott. I'm a spirituality teacher, and I wanted to talk to you today via this metaphysical insight about something that is near and dear to me. In every video, I always say, or mostly say, that mythology is important because these myths reveal the nature of the soul. In essence, we see the myth not as it is, but as we are. And if we can be open to that and live in the world from that perspective, see the world not just as it is, but as we are. The world is constantly a picture of yourself. Right now, you're listening to my voice, but if you can turn your attention to what is listening on your end, it will show you something about yourself if you're willing to see it. It will show you about your posture when someone is talking. It will show you about yourself as far as your ability to receive something when you are being engaged, or when you are interested in a particular person, or what something is, or what is being presented to you. If you can turn your attention to that which is looking at the thing that's not engaging you or engaging your attention, it will show you something about the self. And I believe you get the point. If we can be in the world and live in the world as if the world is our mirror, which it is, we can see ourselves. And number one, I always say it keeps us humble because our negative qualities, so to speak, are always before us. And then number two, it puts us on the path for growth because we can see those areas that we are okay in and the areas that we need improvement in, and we can thus improve those areas because we have a clear picture, as clear as can be, I should say, of the self, of our individual selves. Excuse me. Today, the metaphysical insight that I wanted to talk about is based on the book Genesis. It's the Garden of Eden story. First of all, again, if these myths are allegorical, allow me to talk about it from an allegorical perspective. The Garden of Eden, I believe, is a metaphor for the first temple that was created. The first temple is the temple of the mind. This is the Garden of Eden. This is paradise because we're talking about states of consciousness. In the story, Adam and Eve were obviously in the garden. And to get to the point that's very relevant to this video, um, Adam and Eve encountered a circumstance where they saw two trees, and one of the trees was the tree of life, and the other tree is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you know anything about terms like good and evil, even though they seem contrasting, metaphorically speaking, they have a larger point. Like if I were to tell you that I searched high and low to find this shirt, um, you wouldn't really believe that I searched high and low. You would just take that as I searched everywhere. Well, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a metaphor for everything that encompasses good and evil. It's in essence like, I want to say, the mirror of the tree of life. You might as well call it tree of life as well. So you have tree of life number one and tree of life number two. So this knowledge of good and evil is a metaphor, not necessarily for good and evil, but it's a metaphor for everything. Because in dualism, or dualistic terms, I guess, is the best way that the English interpreter was able to express this idea of something else. um, and according to the story, you know it, even if you don't study Christian mythology, I'm sure you've heard it before, that Adam and Eve, the first family, as they you can call them, bit of the tree, not necessarily of life, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then, you know the story after that, they were kicked out of the garden. Now, the insight that came to me from this story based on my own work, and again, these insights are for myself, and so I'm sharing them with you guys in hopes that as they kind of helped me when they came to me as a mailman, hopefully they will help you too. These particular trees, first of all, the first tree is the tree of life. I personally, based on the information, think that they didn't eat from that tree because they assumed they already had life, and so they ate from the tree of everything, because that's what this is. It's what they call a merismic metaphor. It's an example of merism. It's a figure of speech, by which we say a conventional phrase and it means something else. So the knowledge of good and evil, again, is a merismic metaphor for everything. But uh, so they did not eat from the tree of life because they, in essence, believed that they had life. And I think that's what happens to us sometimes when we think that we have it going on. When we think that we have it all together, we start to look at other options instead of the natural flow, the natural way that life is trying to bring things to us. And it it brings this idea to mind, if you can be watchful of your own self and your own soul, of where am I right now? What am I doing? What am I thinking? Where am I at? What state is my soul? In the story, Adam and Eve looked outside of the tree of life and looked to something else that they felt could give them something greater. And so I believe oftentimes we look outside of the tree or the truth of life as well. When we think that life is good, we look to other options. When we think things are fine, we do. And I have to ask this question, not just to myself, but also to you that watch this. If the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a metaphor for the tree of everything, good and evil, everything, then when we look outside of the truth of life and then we go for everything, what is this thing that kind of mesmerizes us? You know, at what point can we say that we had enough and our ambition doesn't lead us to move outside of the tree or the truth of life? At what point can we say that what, I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to continue in the course that life is kind of presenting to me. I don't want to try and manipulate things and circumstances in order for them to work for my good. I think, first of all, that we, as people who are alive and life is kind of flowing, and we use, whenever we talk about life, I'm sure a lot of teachers use a lot of oceanic like terminology. We talk about fluidity and flowingness and all of that stuff. Life kind of flows, because life is constantly living. Life is kind of moving and growing and revolving and evolving. And I believe that we kind of naturally grow and move and revolve and evolve too. Now, instead of trying to manipulate life, what we can do is learn to cooperate with life. And we can, in essence, see where we are in that grand scheme of things. And things will come to us. I don't want to say easy, but they will be easier. Ask yourself this: the next time that you are about to make a big decision in your life, ask yourself, why are you making that decision? What are you feeding? What need is being served from that decision? And then, number two, ask yourself this: does this decision that I'm about to make correspond with the truth of my life? With the natural flow of my life? Or am I trying to manipulate life to make things speed up, to make things come faster, to make things come based on my time and not the natural time of life? Because like a teenager who is given a car too soon, I think that there are times in which we can be given things too soon. We can be given access too soon. Maybe we're not ready for that next thing that we're trying to do just yet, even though we think we're ready. Maybe we're ready for a portion of it and we should give it to ourselves incrementally. Maybe that's the better approach, and so on and so forth. But if you can kind of get the hint from the metaphor and chew on it, you can see where it fits in your life. So again, if we're talking about two trees, we're talking about two truths in life. We're talking about the natural flow or the natural truth of life, the tree of life. And then we're talking about this other tree. We're talking about this other way of doing things. It's like, if you're having a conversation with someone, do you have to be rude to them? I mean, even though you're having a bad day, do you really have to hurt their feelings? Did you really have to be that nasty? Was there another way? Was there another path? Was there another natural course of doing or fulfilling or carrying out what it is you were about to do? Did you have to do it like that? And I think that if we can kind of start asking ourselves these questions, we'll see that we're always placed in a circumstance where there's two main choices. There's two things that we can do. We can do it based on the natural course, and follow basic principles that have nothing to do with religion as a whole. We're talking about spirituality. You know what's right and you know what's not so right. But when we become adults, there's no boogeyman in the closet, there's no old man in the sky, and there's no parent that's going to spank us. So you have to ask yourself, what is the right course and the right thing for me? And I believe that life doesn't come to test us, but life comes to reveal us to ourselves. And when we don't like that reflection, and when we don't want to accept that reflection, we want to create something else. That's when we buy into this other tree, the tree of ambition, unhealthy ambition, which is why I go back to my earlier statement. What's enough for you? How much do you need? How much do you require? Just of everything in life, emotionally, mentally, financially, psychologically, whatever. How much is enough? You know, how fast is life in essence coming to you and flowing through you? Do you have to hit fast forward? Or can you get in tune with that and follow the current? Because if we follow the current, you'll find that there's an ebb and a flow. Some of us just want to flow. We don't want there to be an ebb. No recession. Our only speed is go, no brakes. We just want to take off. Well, guess what? If you don't have any brakes, if there's a circumstance you need to dodge, you can't hit your brakes, so you put yourself in a circumstance where you not only can injure yourself, but you injure other people. So I believe that just as a car has brakes, we too need brakes in life. And I think that we also need to allow life to break us, literally, because sometimes life will kind of tell us to slow down. Significance is the root word of significance is signs. And I believe that there are times in life where things that are of significance that we should pay attention to, I should say. There are signs that will let us know that we should pay attention to them. Anything that is of significance, a sign is in the word significance, and a sign will be presented to let you know that it is significance. We just have to pay attention to it. So again, mythology, if we can look at it, there are nuggets of truth, and there's just information and there are insights, because again, when we're looking into mythology, we really are just using something to look at ourselves. Mythology is a mirror. We see it not as it is, but we see it as we are. If we can open ourselves to this realization, open ourselves to this way of being and living in the world, I promise you, things may not be easy, but they can be easier. They can be easier. There's another way of doing this. There's another way of being. There's a better way of being in the world. And I'm not talking about peak experiences either. I'm not talking about walking around here blissed out, smile on your face all the time. I'm talking about a grounded, natural approach to living and being in the world. And I think that at the end of the day, if we can accept this realization, we'll see it manifested, because again, what we see depends on what we're looking for. So I say to you today, as I said in other videos, if you cannot see possibility, it's because perhaps you're not looking for it. Look for possibility and you will see it. Determinism is predicated on the self. It's based on the self. Don't allow your determination to be governed by your five senses. You determine, you pull that energy from inside. Okay, I've said enough. I've ran my mouth a bit too much. And this will probably be a second video. And I don't want to jump overboard and go off the subject. This has been Jess.herriott. My website is www.fulfillment.com for booking information. You can log onto my website and click on Contact Us and send me an email. And also, I'm on Facebook too at Jess.herriott, so you can send me a direct message, add me as a friend. I'm on Twitter, all that stuff. I'm on the gram, Instagram, so follow me there. I love to talk with you, hear your insights, and I love to connect with you and share with you. And also, if you're in the Southeast or if you're in the North and you like to visit, I'm delivering workshops all throughout the Southeast at spiritual centers from Georgia to Tennessee. So check out my webpage and check out my Facebook page for more updates on whether or not I will be in a city near you. Peace and blessings. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more metaphysical insights from Jess.herriott. Peace and blessings.